Welcome to the Sant Satsang podcast. My name is James Bean. During this podcast today, I'll share with you a verse from Sant Dayal describing the Sant vision of a spiritual life to be pursued during our time here on planet Earth. I'll share with you a letter from Huzur Baba Sawan Singh titled, Honor Your Present Lifetime. I'll share with you a couple of passages from the writings of Huzur Maharaj Rai Salagram, which help to clarify and define this path of the Masters. I'll share with you my article, Too Many Books Are Still Not Enough, on the role of books and research in my life, and that has contributed to this very podcast. And I'll share with you a couple of quotes from Swami Sant Seviji Maharaj from his great book, his great work, The Harmony of All Religions, on the role of scriptures, the role of focusing on the teachings of the great masters of the ages as a basic foundation for beginning to make spiritual progress during this life. The first level of satsang, according to the teachings of Swami Sant Seviji and the masters of Sant Mat, is association with God. The second level of satsang, or association, is the association with a living master. And the third level of satsang, or association, is associating with the writings of the masters, the great saints and mystics of the ages. He says, in daily life we need the guidance of a great sage or saint. Even though we might encounter many so-called mahatmas or mahatmas or sadhus, the task of finding and identifying an accomplished guide is difficult. So in consideration of this, how would satsang, or association with a true master, be possible? The answer is that we can study the teachings of the great masters of the past, because in their teachings we will find the elaboration of the truth. This, then, is the third category or level of satsang. Generally, when we speak of satsang, it is this third category that is meant. This kind of satsang, or spiritual association with truth, includes the study of scriptures and the words and writings of the great saints and mystics of the ages. As we continue diligently in this third type of satsang, we accumulate the meritorious karmas, which will lead to the meeting with a true master. Then we will be able to do the second category of satsang. As we continue in association with a great master and with the master's blessings, we will gradually begin to meditate and undertake the prescribed spiritual disciplines. By diligently practicing these disciplines, we will experience the first level of satsang, the association with the Supreme Being. When we have thus accomplished the highest category of satsang, our life's purpose will be fulfilled. The word sat means the eternal truth. It also refers to God. It's a name of God. So sang is association and sat is truth. So literally satsang is associating with the eternal truth, or God. And these three levels of satsang represent a kind of spiritual stairway to heaven, or ladder of ascension, going from knowing what the teachings of the masters are that leads us to a living master, and the living master provides us with the spiritual guidance, the spiritual charge and atmosphere and instruction, which leads to the spiritual practice, or sadhana, so we can merge into the Supreme Being and associate with God, or Sat, the eternal truth. My article on the subject of the study of scriptures, the collection of writings, and which have given me the capacity to produce podcasts and various radio productions. Too many books are still not enough. For a very long time, I've been a collector, researcher, and lover of books. These are, for the most part, translations of writings from other places and other times. Egypt and the Middle East, Near East and further to the east, as in India. These can be described as sacred texts, rare spiritual classics, world scriptures, writings of mystics, saints, Sant gurus, Sufis, and especially the Sant poet mystics of India, their banis, their bhajans, their hymns, their psalms. I also continue to have a major interest in those lost books of the Bible, or what's known as extra-canonical or apocryphal texts. In other words, someone else's scriptures, other Bibles from other branches of Judaism, Christianity, and the various Gnostic movements of the ages. I find it to be rather liberating, actually, to be able to explore the roots of a spiritual path, or the roots of a world religion, to take things right back to the very beginning, or even before the beginning, opening one's self up to significant and sometimes fairly radical discoveries, coming upon new or unanticipated insights or realizations about what is genuine, authentic, meaningful, and true. This approach of examining the foundations of spiritual movements, no longer bound by time, no longer tethered to one's own particular cultural province or bias or denomination or affiliation, in my case has caused me to change my religion on more than one occasion over the decades and make other major course corrections along the way. Access to the wisdom of the great sages and mystics of the centuries has certainly provided me with inspiration I previously did not know existed, and has kept me on the path, given me a greater clarity about spiritual practice or meditation I otherwise would never have known. I am especially fond of the poet mystics of the East, and some of what I've researched or simply enjoyed reading before meditation time or before falling asleep at night gets bookmarked and often included as material for my Spiritual Awakening radio podcasts and sometimes in articles or blogs. As my spiritual teacher once said, "What's the use of receiving this human form if we do not serve others in thought, word, and deed?" I love sharing passages from the teachings of various spiritual masters, especially from rare books few have heard of or have access to in the West. This can be in the form of a reading during a podcast or talk somewhere, like a spiritual retreat or satsang, or via social media. I even created a couple of spiritual e-libraries online, one at my Spiritual Awakening website. See the library tab at spiritualawakeningradio.com. And more recently, an expanded library at my Sant Radhasoami blog. If you go to my website, spiritualawakeningradio.com, and click on the library tab, at the top of that library, you'll see a link to the larger expanded library right there, just to make it easy to get to, the Sant Radhasoami e-library. There are so many free books online these days one can link to, whether one's interest is in Dead Sea Scrolls, books of Enoch, Gnostic and other Gospels of the early centuries AD, Syriac, Aramaic, contemplative mystics, Mandaean scriptures, the Manichaeans, Jesus Sutras, those medieval Christian mystics of Europe, Sufi poetry, Sikh scriptures, the path of the masters, recent and lesser-known contemporary living masters from rural India as well. We are blessed these days with so many e-libraries and uploaded books hosted at countless sites on the web. At one's fingertips and a couple of clicks away are so many wonderful collections of poetry and prose, beneficial pathways or avenues to wisdom. I know 1,000 Rumis the world is yearning to hear, to be soothed by the voice of the soul that speaks through them all. Hafiz, Shams of Tabriz, Sarmad, Kabir, Rabia of Basra, Mirabai, Dayabai, Sajobai, Tukarama, Hazrat Sultan Bahu, Baba Farid, Guru Nanak, Darya Sahib of Bahar, Sant Tulsi Sahib of Hathras, Surdas, Namdev, Ravidas, Paltu, Sant Radhasoami Sahib, Maharishi Mehi Paramhans, and many more besides, right up to the living present. Countless are the lovers of the beloved. Swami Sant Seviji said, "Another common misconception is that the prophets, saints, and mystics search for new truth. Rather, what they do is to simply remove the layers of dirt of accumulated misinterpretations that have corrupted the truth. Then the living teacher will bring forth the very same truth in a new light. The original truth must repeatedly be presented to suit the current age." A description of the role of the living master by Swami Sant Seviji Maharaj. I mentioned that some of my favorite writings are those poet mystics of the East, Tukaram, Kabir, Dadu, Ravidas, Mirabai, and so on. This is from the book Jagat Prakash by Huzur Maharaj Rai Salagram. All Sants and Radhasoami Dayal in particular have in their bani, in their hymns, in their mystic poetry, laid great emphasis upon love, engendering love or bhakti. The idea is that the task can be accomplished quickly and easily with the help of love. Mere renunciation cannot afford so much advantage, nor can mere comprehension intellectually of the faith confer such a benefit. All activities in the world are going on because of love and desire. If one does not have any feeling of love, or he or she have no interest in the matter, they can do nothing. For the real spiritual benefit of their soul or jiva, it therefore behooves all souls, all jivas, to develop true love for the Supreme Being. It appears proper for everyone, whether a man or woman, that as they work day and night for providing nourishment and enjoyment for their body, mind, and senses, they must also work a little for securing sustenance and nourishment to their spirit, their soul. If they will do so with serenity, they would themselves feel its beneficial effects after practicing the meditation practice, the spiritual practice, for a short time, and would then realize within themselves the presence of the Supreme Being and His grace. The spirit can get the highest form of nourishment, pleasure, and strength and freshness if it is raised upwards by the practices of Surat Shabd Yoga, inner light and sound meditation, and brought into contact or merged with the current of nectar which comes from above. Huzur Maharaj Rai Salagram from Prem Patra Radhasoami. This letter of Huzur Baba Sanwan Singh caught my eye a while back. It was composed July 21st, 1913. It's titled, Honor Your Present Lifetime. My dear daughter, this is written to a Satsangi back then, an initiate of Huzur Baba Sanwan Singh. My dear daughter, your letter has been handed over to me by Kehar Singh. Its contents have pleased me greatly. Though your spiritual progress is slow, yet you are advancing on the way. You must clearly know that our soul has come to this earth since time immemorial from its source, and is subjected to mind, and is so confined in worldly desires and riches that even though the Sant Guru persistently wakes it up, it always tries to obtain them against his will. Whenever, through the mercy of the Holy Father, it thinks of its source for a moment, it desires to go there involuntarily. But mind does not help it, and immediately brings forth such a terrible thought that the attention is diverted in the contrary direction, and the result is that the spirit wanders around until it is brought back towards the right path again. Really, the mind is an agent of Kal Parush, the negative power, the universal mind, and is bound to stay with the soul as long as it is in the material spiritual division. You will clearly understand it from the following explanation. Our spirit or soul is the son of Sat Purush, Radhasoami, the Supreme Being, and was lent to Kal Parush, the negative power, the master of the second grand division of the universe, to fulfill the function of evolution of his division and the one below it. Kal covered the soul first with the instrumental causal body, second with the subtle or astral body, and third with the physical body, and created several kinds of internal and external restrictions and obstacles so that the spirit would be entangled in them forever. When the Sant Guru incarnates on this earth to release the souls from their material covers, he first teaches them that this place is not their permanent abode, and that their chief function here is to find the means to return to their own home, whence they came in the beginning. Those who accept his teachings and act upon them with love gradually return to the purely spiritual region under his guidance. Therefore, you need not be anxious. You should continually perform the spiritual practices with firm faith and trust in the compassion of the Holy Father, who has kindly disclosed to you the secrets of the true holy name, and you will certainly reach your goal one day. You should hear the sound when retiring to sleep after getting through the daily exercises. You should continue to hear it lying in your bed, and you must not think to get up to adopt the sitting position, as it will draw your attention aside, and you may not hear the sound for some time, until you work hard again to concentrate your attention. You should also try to hear the holy sound in your wakeful state as long as possible while attending to the daily exercises, because the more time you will allow to this work, the more progress you will make. You should gradually improve to hold your position for 3 hours at a time, but remember not to discomfort yourself by trying to do it in one day. In regard to the forbidden food, you must always inform your host or hostess beforehand that they must not put on the table for you anything cooked with meat, fish, eggs, or lard. As all of your relatives and friends are aware of your habits now, there will seldom be any chance where you will have to make such inquiries, but it will not be out of taste to warn your hosts about animal foods, lest you be mistaken again. If you have any time to spare, you should use it to learn the Hindi language. I am glad that you have thoroughly understood about romance. Our lifetime is invaluable. We must always be careful to utilize it in the best direction. Any part of our time not used in satsang is lost. Therefore, you should always try to save your time for the exercises, as to incline our mind and spirit toward things other than the sound. The holy sound is to lose our fortune. My dear daughter, I will repeatedly ask you to honor your present lifetime and try your best to raise yourself toward your own home. As soon as you reach the first stage of your journey, you will notice the wonderful spiritual scenes there, which will fill your heart with happiness and gratefulness to the Holy Father. After getting through your daily domestic work, always concentrate your thoughts or attention inward and upward. It will refresh your brain and will remove the fatigue of the whole day, and the hidden mysteries will be open to you. Our Sat Guru is always ready to help you and is doing the best for you. Anytime you meet any resistance in your way, you may write for its explanation. Best wishes for yourself. Yours affectionately, Sawan Singh. A letter from long ago that was republished in the September 1978 edition of Sant Bani magazine. A very encouraging letter from Sawan Singh. That part about posture, he was describing lying down in bed before falling asleep at night and hearing the sound. And if one hears the sound, it's not necessary to get up and assume the bhajan posture for hearing the sound, because that would disrupt one's concentration. So just lie there in bed at night before falling asleep and listen to the sound without any regard to posture at that time, just to not break one's concentration, and focus on the sound as often as we can. And finally today, this is a beautiful poem of the 16th century mystic Sant Dadu Dayal of Rajasthan, who outlined the Sant Mat vision of a spiritual life to be pursued during our time here on planet Earth. Dadu is one of those great mystics of the East, one of those great poet mystics of the Sant tradition. Recognize the path to your beloved, O travelers, and take the route of the anguished lover in separation. Keep the Master's grace in your thoughts and reflect on his pure teachings. Develop love and devotion with endearment, and keep the thought of the Creator always before you. Try to merge yourself into God like water in water. Fix your mind within by following the path of the sound current. A yearning will arise. Make then an intense and anguished call. Repeat the name of your beloved, day and night, again and again, with care in thought, word, and deed. You will cross to the other shore. Indian classical ragas used during Spiritual Awakening Radio are donated to this program by main artist Paul Alexander John, who plays the Indian bansuri, bamboo flute. My name is James Bean. Spiritual Awakening Radio is here every week at this time. To say hello, send me an email at this address, james@spiritualawakeningradio.com. And once again, to locate both versions of the Sant Mat Radhasoami e-library, collections of various master writings and other sacred texts online, go to my website, spiritualawakeningradio.com, and click on the library tab. You'll see an offering of books or various links to books there. And there's also a link to the expanded Sant Mat Radhasoami e-library, which I have at my blog at Blogspot or Blogger. Thanks for joining me today for this Sant Mat Satsang podcast edition of Spiritual Awakening Radio.